My son handed me eviction papers on the same day I finished paying off the house I built with my bare hands 50 years ago. My name is Bob Patterson, and my successful CEO son just made the most expensive assumption of his life. You see, Kenneth thought his old carpenter father was broke. He assumed I needed charity, so he gave me 30 days to pack my tools and move to a nursing home, because apparently I'm too poor and senile to live in my own house. The house I designed. The house I built board by board. The house that's now worth $2.8 million. Kenneth makes $400,000 a year, but assumed I survive on food stamps. He drives a Tesla, but figured I can't afford groceries. He called me a financial burden in front of his wife's parents, rich people who nodded sympathetically at the poor old man. But here's what Kenneth doesn't know. Still waters run very, very deep. Instead of arguing, I made 3 phone calls. One to my financial advisor about my $2.3 million portfolio, one to my daughter about transferring the house deed, and one to my lawyer about the oceanfront Malibu condo I bought last year with cash. The look on Kenneth's face when he found out? Priceless. If you're watching this, smash that subscribe button and tell me where you're watching from, especially if you've ever been underestimated because of what you do for a living. This is the story of how a poor carpenter taught his arrogant son that assumptions can bankrupt more than just your bank account. Let me paint you a picture of how Kenneth sees his old man. October 15th, 2024. Kenneth pulls up in his Tesla Model S. That's a $1,240 monthly lease payment, by the way. I'm in the garage organizing my Craftsman toolbox. Same one I bought in 1972 when Elizabeth was born. Solid steel, built to last. Worth more as a vintage collectible now than most people's cars. Kenneth walks in wearing a $4,200 Armani suit. I'm in my work clothes, Carhartt jeans, flannel shirt, maybe $45 total from Walmart. He looks around the garage like he's stepping into a junkyard. Dad, we need to talk about all this junk cluttering up the garage. Junk. 50 years of tools that built this entire house, and he calls them junk. These tools aren't junk, Kenneth. They're history. He picks up my old leather work boots, resoled 4 times, still solid. Dad, look at these things. You can't keep living like this. Like what? Like a man who knows the value of things that last? That evening, Victoria joins us for dinner. Kenneth's wife, 29, marketing executive, carries an $8,900 Hermes handbag. She sits at the kitchen island I built from reclaimed oak in 1987, running her manicured fingers across the surface like she's inspecting it for flaws. Bob, have you thought about downsizing? Victoria asks, not looking up from her phone. This big house must be expensive to maintain for someone on a fixed income. Fixed income. She assumes I'm living on Social Security scraps. Kenneth nods. Victoria's right, Dad. The property taxes alone must be eating you alive. $28,000 a year? That's brutal on a carpenter's pension. I sip my coffee from the same ceramic mug Elizabeth made me in high school pottery class. I manage. But that's the thing. You shouldn't have to just manage, Victoria says. Modern senior living can be quite nice. Climate control, prepared meals, social activities. Social activities. Like I'm some lonely widower who needs crafts time. Kenneth leans forward. Dad, we've been thinking. This house is too much for you. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, that big yard. When's the last time you used the guest rooms? Elizabeth stays in one when she visits with the kids. Once a month, Victoria says. That's expensive storage for a once-a-month guest. I look around the dining room. Every piece of trim, every cabinet, every built-in shelf, I installed them myself. The crown molding took me 3 weekends to get perfect. The hardwood floors, laid them board by board in the summer of 1975. Your mother and I raised 2 children in this house, I say quietly. Kenneth's voice softens slightly, but the message remains the same. I know, Dad. That's exactly why we want to help you transition to something more appropriate. Appropriate. Translation, somewhere that won't embarrass him when he brings clients around. Victoria scrolls through her phone. I've been researching senior communities. Sunset Manor has lovely amenities. $6,200 a month, but Kenneth and I could help with that. Help, like charity. I built this house in 1974, I say. Every nail, every board, every pipe. We know, Dad, Kenneth says, but you're 70 now. It's time to let someone else worry about maintenance and upkeep. They exchange a look across my kitchen table, a look that says they've already decided. They're not here to ask permission. They're here to present the plan. "We love you, Bob," Victoria says, finally looking at me. "But you can't stay stuck in the past forever." The past. 50 years of marriage, raising children, building something with my own hands. That's just the past to them. I stand up and start clearing the dishes. The same dishes my wife Sarah and I picked out at JCPenney in 1976. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would impress Kenneth's crowd. But they've served thousands of family dinners, birthday celebrations, homework sessions at this table. "I'll think about it," I tell them. Kenneth smiles like he's just closed a business deal. "That's all we ask, Dad." But as I watch his Tesla disappear down the street I built the driveway for, I'm already thinking. Just not about what they expect me to think about. Let me tell you what's really at stake here. It's not just a house. It's 50 years of life. This kitchen? Sarah and I planned every detail during the winter of 1973. She wanted the sink facing the backyard so she could watch you kids play while doing dishes. I installed that window myself. Framed it with redwood trim I milled from a tree that fell in our neighbor's yard during the '78 storm. The growth chart on the kitchen wall shows Kenneth at age 5, then 7, then 10. Same spot where Elizabeth measured herself every birthday. Black ink marks on white paint climbing year by year. Kenneth used to stand so proudly against that wall, wearing his little baseball uniform, grinning up at me like I was the strongest man in the world. Now he wants to erase all of that for his convenience. If I give in, if I just pack my bags and shuffle off to Sunset Manor like some worn-out piece of furniture, what am I really losing? First, I lose my independence. At Sunset Manor, someone else decides when I eat, what I eat, when the lights go out. Someone else controls the thermostat, picks the TV channels in the common area, schedules my day around their activities. I've been making my own decisions for 70 years. I'm not ready to hand that over to a 20-something recreation coordinator. Second, I lose my grandchildren. Elizabeth brings Tommy and Sarah, named after their grandmother, over every few weekends. Tommy's 8, loves hearing stories about the house construction. I've been teaching him basic woodworking in the garage. He made a birdhouse last month, his first real project. Took him 3 tries to get the angles right, but he stuck with it. That's Patterson determination. Where's he going to learn that at Sunset Manor? In the crafts room making potholders from plastic loops? Third, I lose respect. Not just theirs, mine. If I cave to this pressure, if I let Kenneth steamroll me because he's embarrassed by his blue-collar father, what does that say about everything I've stood for? I raised him to be strong, independent, principled. Now he's using his success to push around the man who sacrificed to give him every opportunity. The financial stakes are real too, though they don't know it yet. This house is worth $2.8 million in today's market. Comparable sales in the neighborhood range from $2.60 to $3.1 million. Kenneth and Victoria see it as a burden. I see it as an asset that's appreciated 1,400% since I bought the lot for $45,000 in 1973. But here's what really keeps me awake at night. What happens to Sarah's memory? She died 3 years ago. Lung cancer. Fought it for 18 months with more courage than any soldier. Her last weeks were spent in the master bedroom I finished for her in 1982. She insisted on the bay window that looks out over her rose garden. "I want to see my flowers," she'd say from the hospital bed we moved in there. "Kenneth wants me to abandon that room, pack up her clothes, her books, the reading chair where she spent countless evenings. Just leave it all behind for some new family to redecorate and modernize. Victoria actually suggested an estate sale. You could probably get good money for some of these vintage pieces, Bob. Vintage pieces. Sarah's hope chest from our wedding became a vintage piece. If I don't fight this, if I don't stand up now, I'm not just giving up a house. I'm giving up my identity as a man who builds things, fixes things, provides for his family. I become exactly what Kenneth apparently thinks I already am, a helpless old man who needs managing. But there's something Kenneth doesn't understand about his old man. I didn't spend 50 years in construction without learning how to read blueprints, and I can see exactly where his plan is heading. He doesn't just want me out of the house. He wants me out of the way. Somewhere clean, convenient, and forgettable. Somewhere that won't complicate his image as the successful executive with the perfect life. That's not happening. Not without a fight. October 18th. Kenneth calls and asks to come by for another chat. This time he brings paperwork. He sits across from me at the dining table, spreading out brochures like a salesman. Victoria hovers behind him, occasionally nodding at key points. Dad, I've done some research. Kenneth opens a glossy folder. Sunset Manor has an opening. I told you I'd think about it. You've had 3 days. How much thinking does it take? I look at the brochure. Happy seniors playing chess, doing water aerobics, painting landscapes. Everyone smiling like they've found paradise in institutional beige. Says here it's $6,200 a month, I say. That's $74,400 a year. Kenneth waves his hand. I told you we'd help with that. For how long? What do you mean? I mean, what happens when you get tired of writing checks? What happens if your business hits rough times? What happens when you decide that $74,400 could buy Victoria a nice car instead? Victoria stiffens. Bob, that's not fair. Isn't it? You've known me for 3 years. In that time, when have I ever asked either of you for money? Kenneth leans forward. Never. But that's exactly my point, Dad. You're too proud to ask for help when you need it. Who says I need help? Look around. Kenneth gestures at the house. The gutters need cleaning. The driveway has cracks. The paint on the garage door is peeling. I smile. Son, those gutters have been cleaned. Last weekend. The driveway cracks are sealed with professional-grade sealant. And I'm waiting for the right weather to repaint the garage door. Kenneth blinks. You clean the gutters yourself? Who else would clean them? Dad, you're 70 years old. You shouldn't be climbing ladders. I've been climbing ladders since before you were born. I know how to do it safely. Victoria pulls out her phone. Bob, I hate to be blunt, but maintaining a home this size isn't realistic at your age. What would you know about maintaining a home? Her face flushes. Excuse me? You rent a condo in Newport Beach. Property management handles everything from burned-out light bulbs to landscaping. When have you ever fixed a leaky pipe or replaced roof shingles? Kenneth's voice gets harder. Dad, this isn't about Victoria's experience. This is about your safety and quality of life. My quality of life is fine. Is it? When's the last time you socialized with people your own age? I sip my coffee. Tuesday. Coffee with Jim Morrison at the hardware store. He's 73. That's not the same thing. Why not? Because... Kenneth searches for words. Because you need structured activities, professional oversight. Professional oversight. I repeat the words slowly. You mean supervision. I mean support. No, son. You mean control. The room goes quiet. Victoria looks at Kenneth like she's waiting for him to close this deal. Kenneth pulls out another document. Look, Dad, I've talked to some lawyers. If something happens to you, a fall, a medical emergency, and you're here alone, there could be liability issues. Liability issues? For the family. If you get hurt and it comes out that we knew you were living unsafely... I set down my coffee cup. Are you threatening me? I'm protecting all of us. By forcing me out of my own home. By helping you transition to appropriate care before a crisis forces the decision. I stand up. Get out. Kenneth looks genuinely shocked. Dad, get out. Victoria grabs her purse. Bob, you're being unreasonable. Am I? My son just threatened legal action to force me into a nursing home. That seems pretty unreasonable to me. Kenneth's voice turns cold. Fine, have it your way. But when you fall off a ladder or have a stroke alone in this big house, don't expect us to clean up the mess. I won't. Good. Kenneth gathers his papers. But understand something, Dad. This house will be sold eventually, whether you cooperate or not. What's that supposed to mean? Kenneth straightens his tie. It means I'm your next of kin. I have power of attorney for medical decisions. If a doctor declares you incompetent... He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. Victoria smiles sweetly. We're trying to do this the easy way, Bob, but there are other ways. They leave me standing in my dining room, surrounded by 50 years of memories and the sudden understanding that this isn't about my welfare. This is about control. Kenneth's Tesla backs out of my driveway for the second time this week. But this time, I'm not thinking about what they want me to think about. I'm thinking about making some phone calls. After they leave, I sit in my recliner, the same lazy boy I bought when Kenneth graduated high school, and think about those phone calls. First call is to my daughter Elizabeth. She's working a double shift at Orange County Emergency Medical Center, but she picks up anyway. Dad, everything okay? Elizabeth, I need to ask you something. Hypothetically. Uh-oh. When you say hypothetically, I know something's brewing. What's Kenneth done now? Smart girl. Emergency room doctor, sees through nonsense for a living. Gets that from her mother. If someone tried to force you out of your home, what would you do? Long pause. Dad, Kenneth can't force you out of your house. You own it. Actually, sweetie, that's more complicated than you might think. What do you mean? I explain the power of attorney situation, the legal threats, Kenneth's assumption that I'm financially helpless. Elizabeth's voice gets tight. He said, what about liability? His exact words were, when you fall off a ladder or have a stroke, don't expect us to clean up the mess. That son of a... She catches herself. Sorry, Dad, but that's inexcusable. I need you to know something, Elizabeth. Whatever happens in the next few weeks, I want you to understand that I'm not helpless. I'm not broke, and I'm not going quietly. Dad, you're scaring me a little. What aren't you telling me? Nothing dangerous, but I've got some resources Kenneth doesn't know about. Resources? We'll talk soon. But Elizabeth, how would you feel about inheriting this house instead of Kenneth? Another long pause. Dad, are you okay? Really? I'm fine. Better than fine. But I want to know if you'd want it. The responsibility, the upkeep, all of it. Dad, I love that house. Tommy and little Sarah love visiting there. But if you're thinking about changing your will because you're mad at Kenneth, I'm not mad, sweetheart. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. Okay, we'll talk this weekend. I'll come by Saturday morning. Good. Bring the kids. We'll have breakfast in the kitchen. Dad, I love you. I love you too. Second call is to my old friend Charles Morrison. Charles and I go way back, 43 years to be exact. He was fresh out of USC Business School when we met at a real estate investment seminar in 1981. I was just a carpenter looking to learn about rental properties. Charles was starting his own wealth management firm. Funny how life works. While Kenneth was growing up thinking his dad was just another blue-collar guy with calloused hands, I was quietly building something else. Charles helped me do it. Bob, good to hear from you. How's retirement treating you? Complicated, Charles. I need to ask you something. How quickly could you set up a meeting? What kind of meeting? The kind where we review my portfolio in front of witnesses. Charles laughs. Someone's finally ready to stop being the best-kept secret in Orange County? Something like that. Who are the witnesses? Kenneth and some business associates of his, maybe Victoria's parents. The ones who don't know about your little nest egg? That's right. Charles is quiet for a moment. Bob, are you sure about this? Once that cat's out of the bag's getting pretty crowded anyway. Time to let it breathe. All right. When and where? I'll let you know. Soon. Bob, whatever's going on, you know you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you've managed your money, right? I know, but sometimes people need to learn that assumptions can be expensive. Third call is to my attorney, Patricia Hendricks. She handled Sarah's will, the house deed, all our legal work for 15 years. Bob, what can I do for you? Patricia, I want to know about transferring property to Elizabeth. Not when I die, now. That's a significant decision. What's prompting this? I explained the situation with Kenneth. I see, Bob. You understand that once you transfer the property, you no longer own it, correct? I understand. And you trust Elizabeth completely? More than I trust my son right now. All right, I'll draw up the papers, but Bob, I'd recommend having a family meeting first. Clear the air. Oh, I'm planning on it. A very clear conversation. I hang up and look around my living room. The built-in bookcases I installed in 1989. The fireplace mantel I carved from a single piece of walnut. Every detail carefully planned and executed. Kenneth thinks this house is just shelter. He doesn't understand it's a legacy. Time to teach him the difference. October 22nd. Kenneth calls with an invitation that sounds more like a summons. Dad, Victoria's parents are in town. We're having dinner Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Victoria's parents? Robert and Catherine Morrison. He's in commercial real estate development. She's on the board of 3 nonprofits. I thought you should meet them. Translation. He wants to show off his successful in-laws while demonstrating why his father is an embarrassment that needs managing. Where's this dinner happening? Our place. Victoria's cooking. Victoria's cooking. From what I've seen, Victoria's cooking consists of ordering from expensive restaurants and plating it on her wedding china. All right, 7 o'clock. Dad, could you dress nicely? Maybe the blue shirt Elizabeth gave you for Christmas? I'll wear whatever I wear. Okay, see you Thursday. Thursday arrives cold and rainy. Perfect weather for what I suspect will be a chilly evening. I dress in clean jeans, a flannel shirt, and my good leather work boots, the ones Kenneth called embarrassing. I'm 70 years old. If that bothers anyone, that's their problem. Kenneth's house in Newport Beach is what realtors call contemporary luxury. All glass and steel angles, furniture that looks expensive and uncomfortable, the kind of place where you're afraid to touch anything because it might cost more than a car. Victoria greets me at the door wearing a cocktail dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Bob, come in. Mom and Dad are excited to meet you. Robert Morrison is exactly what I expected. 65, silver hair, handshake like he's closing a deal. Catherine Morrison is elegant in that carefully maintained way that money makes possible. Perfect manicure, jewelry that catches the light, smile that never quite reaches her eyes. Bob, Kenneth's told us so much about you. Robert's voice has that hearty quality rich men use when they're being gracious to the help. Nice to meet you both. Catherine looks around the living room like she's appraising it. Victoria, your home is absolutely stunning. This must have cost... Mom. Victoria cuts her off with a look. Kenneth appears with drinks. Wine for everyone except me. I get a beer, like that's all I'm sophisticated enough to handle. So, Bob, Robert settles into an expensive chair. Kenneth tells me you're retired. What did you do? Carpenter. Oh, how honest work. Catherine's smile becomes more forced. Must have been difficult, all that physical labor. I liked it. Did you specialize? Cabinetry? Trim work? Robert asks. Houses mostly. Built them from foundation to roof. Well, that's practical. Kenneth jumps in. Dad's very handy. He built his whole house himself. The way he says handy makes it sound like a cute hobby rather than a skilled profession. Really? Catherine looks interested for the first time. What neighborhood? Irvine. Oh, the interest disappears. One of the older sections, I'm sure. 1974. Robert nods like that explains everything. Those tract homes from the 70s. Basic construction, but they served their purpose. Tract homes. 50 years of custom craftsmanship, and he calls it basic construction. Actually, I say quietly, it's not a tract home. I designed and built it myself. Custom everything. How nice, Catherine says in the tone people use with children showing off crayon drawings. During dinner, the conversation flows around me like I'm furniture. Robert talks about his latest development project, luxury condos in Laguna Beach, $2.8 million starting price. Catherine mentions the charity auction that raised $400,000 for arts education. Kenneth discusses Summit Technologies' expansion plans, quarterly growth targets, venture capital funding. I eat my salmon and listen. Kenneth, Robert says, cutting his steak, Victoria mentioned you're helping your father with some living situation adjustments. Kenneth glances at me. Dad's getting to the age where the big house is becoming impractical. Smart thinking, Catherine nods. My mother waited too long to downsize. Fell down the stairs at 82. Hip surgery, 6 months of rehab. Could have been prevented. Exactly, Victoria says. We found a lovely senior community. Which one? Robert asks. Sunset Manor, very well regarded. Oh, yes, I know Sunset Manor. We considered it for Robert's father. The waiting list is quite long. Kenneth straightens proudly. We were able to secure a spot. How fortunate. Those places aren't cheap. We're helping with the expenses, Kenneth says. Helping. Like I'm a charity case. Catherine turns to me with exaggerated sympathy. Bob, you must be so grateful to have such a successful son. Not everyone is lucky enough to have children who can afford to help. I set down my fork. Actually, Catherine, I'm quite capable of paying my own way. The table goes quiet. Of course, Robert says carefully. Kenneth just meant... I know what Kenneth meant. He meant I'm a financial burden who needs managing. A poor old carpenter who can't afford his own home. Kenneth's face reddens. Dad, that's not... Isn't it? You've spent this entire dinner introducing me as the handyman to these nice people. Making excuses for my clothes, my education, my house, explaining how you have to help poor old Dad because carpenters don't make real money. Victoria looks mortified. Bob, I don't think anyone meant... Let me ask you something, Robert. What do you think this house is worth? Robert glances around. Kenneth and Victoria's house? Well, in this market, probably $1.80 to $2.2 million. And what do you think my little tract house in Old Irvine is worth? Uncomfortable silence. Honestly? Maybe $800,000? The older neighborhoods in Irvine aren't $2.8 million. Another silence, deeper this time. I'm sorry, Catherine says. My house. Current market value is $2.8 million. Comparable sales in my neighborhood range from $2.60 to $3.1 million. Kenneth stares at me. Dad, how do you know that? Same way you know your quarterly reports, son. I pay attention. The dinner conversation dies there. Robert and Catherine exchange glances. Victoria suddenly becomes very interested in her wine glass. Kenneth looks like he's trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. I stand up. Thank you for dinner. It was educational. As I head for the door, I hear Robert whisper to Kenneth, I thought you said he needed financial help. I thought he did, Kenneth whispers back. Interesting assumption, son, but assumptions can be expensive. October 24th. Kenneth calls in the morning, voice tight with something between confusion and irritation. Dad, we need to talk about what you said at dinner. What about it? The house value. Where did you get that number? Real estate websites, public records, market analysis, same places anyone gets property values. But Dad, you've never been interested in... In what? In money? In investments? In understanding what I own? Long pause. Can we meet? I'd like to bring Charles Morrison. He's our financial advisor. Maybe he can help clarify some things. Charles Morrison. Different Charles Morrison than my Charles Morrison, but the coincidence makes me smile. Your place or mine? Actually, I was thinking dinner. Somewhere nice. I'm hosting some potential clients tonight anyway. Il Fornaio in Newport Beach, 7:30. He wants witnesses. Perfect. So do I. I'll be there. And Dad? Maybe dress appropriately? I'll wear what I always wear, Kenneth. Il Fornaio buzzes with the kind of controlled energy that expensive restaurants cultivate. Kenneth has reserved a corner table large enough for 8 people. He's already there when I arrive, along with Victoria, their financial advisor, Charles Morrison, mid-40s, nervous energy, expensive suit, and 3 people I don't recognize. Dad, you look... Kenneth searches for words as I approach in my clean jeans and flannel shirt. Like myself, I finish for him. He introduces the strangers. David Chen from Pacific Investment Group, Sarah Williams from Premier Development, and Marcus Rodriguez from Coastal Capital, all potential clients for Summit Technologies services. Kenneth has clearly positioned me as the eccentric father he's managing out of family obligation. Bob is my father, Kenneth explains to his guests. Retired carpenter, built his own house back in the 70s. We've been helping him transition to more appropriate living arrangements. More appropriate. There's that phrase again. That's admirable, Sarah Williams says. Elder care is such a challenge. Elder care, like I need assistance walking and feeding myself. Kenneth signals the waiter. Dad, what would you like to drink? Beer's fine. Of course, beer for the blue-collar dad, wine for the sophisticated business people. So, Bob, David Chen asks politely, what was it like building your own house? Satisfying. You design exactly what you want, then make it real. Must have saved a lot of money doing the labor yourself, Marcus Rodriguez adds. Some, but mostly I wanted it done right. Kenneth jumps in. Dad's always been very hands-on, very practical approach to things. Practical. Code for unsophisticated. The conversation flows around real estate markets, development opportunities, investment strategies. I listen and eat my pasta while Kenneth's guests discuss million-dollar projects like other people discuss grocery shopping. Then something interesting happens. A man approaches our table, mid-60s, well-dressed, confident presence. Kenneth looks up, confused. Excuse me, the man says, looking directly at me. Are you Bob Patterson? Every head at the table turns. Kenneth's expression shifts from confusion to concern. Yes. Charles Morrison, Pinnacle Wealth Management. I got your message about meeting tonight. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was brutal coming down from L.A. The table goes dead silent. Kenneth's Charles Morrison, the financial advisor, looks like someone just told him his diploma was fake. My Charles Morrison extends his hand. Bob, good to see you. Shall we discuss your portfolio rebalancing, or would you prefer to schedule another time? I shake his hand. Actually, Charles, this might be perfect timing. My son Kenneth here has been worried about my financial situation. Maybe you could help clarify things for him." Kenneth's face has gone pale. "Dad, what's going on?" Charles Morrison pulls out a leather portfolio. "Well, let me see. Mr. Patterson, as of yesterday's close, your Fidelity account stands at $2,346,890. Your Malibu property is currently valued at $1.8 million, though with the recent comparable sales in that area, we might want to reassess upward. Your stock positions in Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla are performing well, total value around $425,000. You could hear a pin drop in this restaurant. Sarah Williams stares. "Did he just say $2.3 million? Charles nods. "That's just the liquid investments. The Malibu property is separate. Beautiful oceanfront condo, by the way. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, spectacular view. Mr. Patterson bought it last year as a retirement retreat." Victoria's wineglass freezes halfway to her lips. "Malibu property?" Kenneth finds his voice, though it sounds strangled. "Dad, what is he talking about?" I lean back in my chair. "Remember when you asked how I knew my house value? I told you I pay attention." "Well, I've been paying attention to a lot of things for a long time." Charles continues. "The quarterly dividends alone from your portfolio should cover most living expenses. And with the Malibu property appreciating about 8% annually, you're in excellent shape for long-term financial independence." David Chen looks fascinated. "How did you accumulate that kind of wealth on a carpenter's salary?" "Same way anyone accumulates wealth," I say. "Live below your means, invest consistently, compound interest, time. I started buying mutual funds in 1979, put away $200 a month, then $400, then more as I could afford it. Bought the Malibu place when prices dipped in 2023. Kenneth's business associates are looking at him strangely now. Marcus Rodriguez asks, "Kenneth, didn't you say your father needed financial assistance?" Kenneth opens and closes his mouth like a fish out of water. Victoria speaks up. "But Bob, you live so modestly." "I live within my means. There's a difference." Charles Morrison checks his watch. "Bob, shall we discuss the property transfer you mentioned? The deed preparation for Elizabeth?" Now Kenneth looks completely lost. "Property transfer? Your father is transferring the Irvine house to Elizabeth," Charles explains. "Smart move, actually. Removes it from potential estate complications, and Elizabeth's a responsible heir." The silence stretches until Sarah Williams breaks it. "So you're not moving to a nursing home?" "Sunset Manor? No, I'm moving to Malibu. Ocean view, morning walks on the beach, maybe do some volunteer carpentry work for Habitat for Humanity." Kenneth's potential clients are looking at him with expressions ranging from confusion to something approaching respect, but not for Kenneth. David Chen extends his hand to me. "Mr. Patterson, I have to say your long-term financial planning is impressive." "Thank you." Kenneth sits there, his entire narrative crumbling. The poor father who needed managing, the financial burden, the embarrassing blue-collar background. All lies he told himself and others. Charles Morrison closes his portfolio. "Bob, everything's set for the transfer. Elizabeth just needs to sign the final documents." "Perfect." "Kenneth, any questions about my financial situation?" Kenneth looks around the table at his potential clients, at Victoria, at the financial advisor whose services he apparently doesn't need. "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" "Tell you what?" "About the money, the investments, the Malibu house." "I consider this. When would I have told you? When you called me a financial burden? When you threatened to have me declared incompetent? When you introduced me to these nice people as the handyman you're helping?" The restaurant continues buzzing around us, but our table exists in its own bubble of silence. "Never assume anything about anyone," I say quietly. "Especially about the man who taught you how to tie your shoes." I stand up, leave money on the table for my meal, and walk out. Behind me I hear David Chen ask Kenneth, "So, when you said you were helping with elder care?" I don't stay to hear Kenneth's answer. I think I already know what it is. Friday morning I wake up in my own house for what I know will be one of the last times. Strange feeling knowing you're about to give away something you built with your own hands. But sometimes the best way to protect something is to make sure it goes to someone who understands its value. My phone's been ringing all morning. Kenneth called 6 times, Victoria twice. I let them all go to voicemail. At 9 a.m. sharp, Patricia Hendricks arrives with the transfer documents. She's followed 20 minutes later by Elizabeth, who comes straight from her night shift at the hospital, still wearing scrubs. Dad, are you absolutely sure about this? We sit at the kitchen table where Kenneth delivered his ultimatum 6 days ago. Feels like a lifetime. Elizabeth, do you love this house? Of course I do. This is where I learned to ride a bike, where Mom taught me to cook, where you helped me with algebra homework every night for 2 years. Do you want your children to have those same memories? Yes, but then yes, I'm sure. Patricia spreads the documents across the table. This is a quitclaim deed transferring full ownership of the property from Bob Patterson to Elizabeth Patterson Brooks. Elizabeth, once you sign this, the house is yours. All rights, responsibilities, taxes, everything. Elizabeth picks up the pen, then hesitates. Dad, what about Kenneth? He's going to be furious. Kenneth made his position clear. He wants me out in 30 days. I'm giving him what he asked for. But the inheritance? What inheritance? He told me this house was a burden. He called it inappropriate for someone my age. He wanted me in Sunset Manor, where I wouldn't embarrass him any more. Patricia points to signature lines. Elizabeth, you'll need to sign here, here, and here. Bob, you sign here. I sign my name, Bob Patterson. The same signature that's been on this deed for 50 years. But this time it means something different. This time it means Kenneth doesn't get to control the narrative anymore. Elizabeth signs carefully like she's handling something precious, which she is. It's done, Patricia says. I'll file these at the county recorder's office this afternoon. Elizabeth, congratulations. You now own a $2.8 million piece of Orange County real estate. Dad, where will you live? I smile. Remember Charles Morrison, my financial advisor? He helped me buy a place in Malibu last year. 3 bedrooms, ocean view. I was saving it as a surprise for family vacations. Now it's my new home. Elizabeth hugs me. Dad, I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of this place. Say you'll teach Tommy and Sarah about the crown molding in the living room, about the hardwood floors I laid by hand, about the kitchen island I built from reclaimed wood. I will. But Dad, what about Kenneth? Before I can answer, we hear Kenneth's Tesla in the driveway, then his key in the front door. Dad, your car's here, but you're not answering your phone. He walks into the kitchen and stops dead when he sees the documents spread across the table. What's going on? Kenneth, I say calmly, meet the new owner of this house. His eyes move from the papers to Elizabeth to me. What? Patricia gathers the documents. Mr. Patterson has transferred ownership of this property to your sister. Everything's legal and filed. Kenneth's face goes through several colors. Dad, you can't do this. It's done. But this is my inheritance. Was your inheritance. Past tense. Victoria appears in the doorway behind Kenneth, takes one look at the scene, and immediately understands what's happened. Bob, this is insane. You can't just give away the family home. I can. I did. It's Elizabeth's house now. Kenneth slams his hand on the table. This is because of dinner last night, isn't it? You're punishing me because I was embarrassed. Embarrassed of what, exactly? You know what, the way you dressed, the things you said. I told the truth. About my house value, about my financial situation, about your assumptions. Kenneth starts pacing. Okay, fine, you have money, more than I knew. But that doesn't change anything. You still shouldn't be living alone in this big house. You're right, I shouldn't. That's why I'm moving to Malibu. Malibu? Elizabeth stands up. Kenneth, Dad owns a condo in Malibu, oceanfront. He bought it last year. Kenneth stares at me like I've grown a second head. You bought a place in Malibu? $1.8 million, cash purchase. It's smaller, more manageable, perfect for my needs. Victoria sits down heavily. So you never needed our help? No. You never needed Sunset Manor? No. Kenneth's voice gets louder. Then why did you let us go through all that? The nursing home research, the financial planning, the worry. I didn't let you do anything. You assumed I was broke and helpless? You never asked about my financial situation. You just decided I was a burden and started making plans to manage me. We were trying to help. You were trying to control. There's a difference. Elizabeth steps between us. Kenneth, enough. Dad has every right to give his property to whoever he chooses. This is ridiculous. Elizabeth, you can't just take the family home. I'm not taking anything. Dad is giving it to me because I respect what it represents. You saw it as a burden. Kenneth turns to me. Dad, if I was wrong about the money, if I misunderstood your situation, I'm sorry. But we can fix this. We can tear up those papers." "The papers are already filed, Kenneth." Patricia nods. "Deed transfers are permanent. This house belongs to Elizabeth now." Kenneth looks desperate. "Dad, please. This is our family home." "Yes, it is. And now it stays in the family with someone who values it." Victoria stands up. "Come on, Kenneth." There's nothing more to discuss here. But Kenneth doesn't move. "Dad, I don't understand. Why didn't you just tell me you had money?" I look at my son, 45 years old, successful, educated, and still not understanding the most basic thing. "Because, son, you never asked. You saw work boots and flannel shirts and decided you knew everything about me. You saw retired carpenter and thought, poor old man. You never asked about my investments, my plans, my capabilities. You just assumed." Kenneth's shoulders slump. "So this is it? You're just leaving?" "I'm moving to Malibu. You know where to find me if you want to visit." "And Elizabeth gets everything?" "Elizabeth gets the house. You get what you asked for. Me out of your way in 30 days. I stand up and extend my hand to Patricia. "Thank you for handling this so efficiently." "My pleasure, Bob. Congratulations on your new home." Kenneth and Victoria leave without another word. I hear the Tesla back out of the driveway one final time. Elizabeth and I sit in the quiet kitchen. Sunlight streams through the window I installed 48 years ago, warming the oak table where I've eaten thousands of meals. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Better than fine." "Will Kenneth forgive you?" "That's up to Kenneth. But Elizabeth, remember this. Never let anyone make you feel small because they're too lazy to look deeper." She squeezes my hand. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too. Now, want to see pictures of your new beach house?" The fallout starts Monday morning. Elizabeth calls me at 7 a.m. "Dad, Kenneth's been calling me all weekend. He wants to contest the transfer." "On what grounds?" "He claims you were coerced, that you're not mentally competent to make major financial decisions." I almost laugh. The same man who just discovered I've been successfully managing a $2.3 million portfolio for 20 years thinks I'm mentally incompetent? His lawyer's name is Bradford Pierce. Apparently he specializes in elder law. Bradford Pierce. I know that name. His firm handled a case against a contractor friend of mine 5 years ago. Ruthless, expensive, and not particularly ethical. Elizabeth, don't worry about it. Patricia Hendricks anticipated this possibility. What do you mean? I had a complete mental competency evaluation done last Wednesday. Dr. Sarah Martinez, certified geriatric psychiatrist. Scored perfect on every test. The documentation is already filed with the county. You planned for this? Sweetheart, when you've been in construction for 50 years, you learn to anticipate problems before they happen. But Kenneth's legal threats are just the beginning. Tuesday, Charles Morrison calls with interesting news. Bob, I thought you should know. Kenneth contacted our office yesterday asking for details about your accounts. What kind of details? Everything. Account balances, transaction history, investment strategy. When I explained client confidentiality, he got quite upset. Upset how? He threatened to file a complaint with the SEC, claims you're being taken advantage of by unscrupulous financial advisors. This time I do laugh. Charles, you've been managing money for 43 years. Your reputation is spotless. That's what I told him. But Bob, he's clearly not taking this well. Wednesday brings more consequences. Elizabeth calls during her lunch break. Dad, you won't believe what happened. Kenneth showed up at the hospital this morning. At your work? He cornered me in the doctor's lounge. Said he wanted to make me an offer. What kind of offer? He'll pay me $3.2 million for the house. Cash. Immediate closing. That's more than it's worth. I know. When I told him it wasn't for sale, he got angry. Started talking about family loyalty, about how I was taking advantage of your mental decline. In front of your colleagues. Dr. Rodriguez was there. Dr. Kim, 3 nurses. It was humiliating. I'm sorry, sweetheart. The worst part? He kept calling you confused and easily manipulated, like you're some senile old man who doesn't know what he's doing. What did you tell him? I told him that if anyone's confused, it's the son who never bothered to learn about his father's financial situation before assuming he was broke. Thursday brings the most interesting development yet. Victoria calls. Not Kenneth, Victoria. Bob, we need to talk. About what? About Kenneth. About what the situation is doing to him. What situation? You know what situation. He's not sleeping. He's not eating properly. He's obsessed with proving you're not competent. Victoria, your husband spent years assuming I was a financial burden. Now he's upset because his assumptions were wrong. That's his problem to solve. But Bob, you have to understand, Kenneth's business relationships are being affected. Now this gets interesting. How so? After that dinner at Il Fornaio, word got around. About your money, about the things Kenneth said about needing to help you financially. And David Chen pulled out of a potential partnership, said he couldn't work with someone who doesn't even know his own father's financial situation. I sipped my coffee and let this sink in. Kenneth's assumptions aren't just embarrassing anymore, they're expensive. Sarah Williams canceled a consulting contract, Victoria continues. She said Kenneth's family management issues raised questions about his judgment. I see. Bob, Kenneth lost an $180,000 deal this week. His reputation is being damaged. By what? By the truth? By the perception that he doesn't know what's going on in his own family. Victoria, whose fault is that perception? Long pause. I know you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. Kenneth made assumptions about me, treated me like a burden, and threatened legal action to force me into a nursing home. Those were his choices. But the consequences are his to deal with. Friday afternoon, Elizabeth brings the kids over to see the house one more time before I officially move to Malibu. Tommy, 8 years old, runs through every room like he's memorizing them. Little Sarah, 5, insists on sitting in the kitchen where Grandpa Bob makes pancakes. Grandpa, why did Daddy Kenneth get so mad about the house? Tommy asks during our walk through the garage. Sometimes adults make assumptions about things they don't understand, I tell him. Your Daddy Kenneth thought I couldn't take care of myself anymore. But you take care of everybody, Tommy says with 8-year-old logic. That's right, buddy. Saturday morning, Kenneth shows up one final time. No Victoria, no lawyers, no witnesses, just my son, looking older than his 45 years. Dad, can we talk? We can always talk. We sit on the front porch I built in 1978. Same porch where I taught him to throw a baseball, where he practiced riding his bike, where we used to sit on summer evenings and talk about his day. I lost the Morrison account, he says quietly. I'm sorry to hear that. They said they couldn't trust someone who doesn't know his own family. I don't respond. Dad, I know I handled this badly. I know I made assumptions. Yes, you did. But did it have to cost me everything? My relationship with you, my business reputation, the family house? I look at my son, successful, educated, driven, and see something I haven't seen in years. Vulnerability. Kenneth, what did you think was going to happen? You threatened to have me declared incompetent. You talked about me like I was a burden. You planned to put me in a nursing home without ever asking what I wanted. I thought I was helping. No, you thought you were managing. There's a difference. Kenneth stares at his hands. So what now? Do we ever fix this? That depends. On what? On whether you can learn to see me as your father instead of a problem to be solved. Kenneth nods slowly. I'd like to try. Good. You know where to find me. As his Tesla disappears down the street for the last time, I realize something. Kenneth didn't lose everything this week. He lost his assumptions. What he does with that knowledge is up to him. But the house stays with someone who understands that homes aren't just investments. They're legacies. And legacies are earned through respect, not inherited through assumption. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting on my deck in Malibu watching the Pacific Ocean stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Coffee tastes better when you're drinking at 50 feet from crashing waves. My phone rings. It's Elizabeth. Dad, guess who's learning to use the kitchen island? Tommy. Both kids. I'm teaching them to make pancakes the way you taught me. Tommy says the workspace is perfectly engineered. I smile. That's because it is. I measured Sarah's height, your height, and calculated the optimal counter space for food prep. He's also fascinated by your tool organization in the garage, wants to know why every screwdriver has its own specific place. Because organization is efficiency. Efficiency is respect for the work. Dad, I think you have a future apprentice. Through my window, I can see a neighbor working on his deck. Older gentleman, maybe my age, struggling with a warped board. I make a mental note to introduce myself later. Maybe offer some help. Elizabeth, how are you settling into home ownership? It's wonderful and terrifying. Yesterday I had to call a plumber for a leaky faucet. Cost me $280 for something that took him 20 minutes. Next time call me. I can walk you through most repairs over the phone. Dad, you're in Malibu. I can't ask you to drive down every time something breaks. Sweetheart, part of owning that house is understanding how it works. I'll teach you basic maintenance. Tommy, too, if he's interested. He's definitely interested. He asked if we could build something together next weekend. What does he want to build? A tree house in the oak tree out back. I set down my coffee cup. Sarah and I planned that tree specifically for a future tree house when we landscaped the backyard in 1983. Took 40 years, but the plan's finally coming together. Tell Tommy I'll be there Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. We'll need lumber, hardware, and a solid foundation design. Dad, you don't have to. Elizabeth, I want to. That tree's been waiting for a treehouse since before you were born. After we hang up, I walk down to the beach. Malibu mornings are something special. Clean air, endless sky, waves that sound like they're washing away yesterday's problems. My phone buzzes with a text message. Kenneth. Dad, saw an article about Habitat for Humanity needing volunteer carpenters. Thought you might be interested. It's the first contact we've had since our conversation on the front porch 2 weeks ago. Simple, respectful, no demands or assumptions. I text back, thanks, already signed up. First project starts Monday. He responds immediately, that's great. Would love to hear about it sometime. Call me next weekend, after 6 p.m. I will. Love you, Dad. Love you too, son. Small steps, but they're steps in the right direction. Monday morning, I report to the Habitat for Humanity build site in Thousand Oaks. The site coordinator, Maria Santos, is a no-nonsense woman who appreciates volunteers who actually know which end of the hammer to hold. Bob, we've got foundation work that needs an experienced eye. Think you can handle it? I've been handling foundations since 1974. The family we're building for is young. Carlos and Ana Rodriguez, both teachers, 2 small children. They remind me of Sarah and myself 45 years ago, full of dreams and determination, but short on resources. Mr. Patterson, Carlos says during lunch break, Maria tells us you built your own house. I did. What advice would you give to new homeowners? I think about this question, about Kenneth and his assumptions, about Elizabeth learning to use the kitchen island, about Tommy wanting to build tree houses. Understand that a house isn't just shelter, I tell him. It's a foundation for everything else. Family dinners, birthday parties, homework help, holiday mornings. Take care of it and it'll take care of you. Anna nods. We want our children to have roots, stability. Then you're already ahead of most people. Houses are built with lumber and nails. Homes are built with intention and respect. Wednesday afternoon, Charles Morrison calls with my quarterly investment report. Bob, your portfolio's up 7% this quarter. Malibu properties appreciated another 3%. You're in excellent shape. Charles, I want to set up an education fund for my grandchildren. How much are you thinking? $200,000, split equally between Tommy and little Sarah. But Charles, I don't want them to know about it until they're ready for college. Understood. We'll structure it as a trust fund with education-specific disbursement rules. Perfect. And Charles, one more thing. I want to establish a scholarship fund for kids from working-class families who want to learn trades. What kind of trades? Carpentry, plumbing, electrical, welding. Real skills that build things. How much funding? Let's start with $500,000. We can grow it over time. Saturday morning, Tommy meets me in Elizabeth's driveway at 8 a.m. sharp. He's wearing miniature work boots and carrying a small toolbox Elizabeth bought him. Ready to build a treehouse, Grandpa Bob? Ready, buddy. But first, let me teach you something my father taught me when I was your age. What's that? Measure twice, cut once, respect your tools, respect your materials, and respect the work. Everything else follows from there. Tommy nods seriously, like I've just shared the secrets of the universe. Maybe I have. We spend the day designing and beginning construction on what will probably be the most over-engineered treehouse in Orange County history. Tommy learns about load-bearing supports, proper joint construction, and the importance of using the right screw for the right job. As we work, I think about legacies. Kenneth thought he was inheriting a house, but houses can be transferred, sold, or demolished. The real inheritance, patience, craftsmanship, respect for honest work that has to be earned through relationship. Grandpa Bob, Tommy says, carefully measuring a board, when I grow up, I want to build houses like you. Then I'll teach you everything I know, buddy. Everything? Everything. Because that's what legacies are really about. Not what you leave behind, but what you pass along. And some things are too valuable to assume anyone will just figure out on their own. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. And remember, never let anyone convince you that honest work isn't valuable work. The world needs builders. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a treehouse to finish.